Welcome. This is grammar lesson number 4, subject-verb agreement. Subject-verb agreement is important to you as a writer because your purpose whenever you write is to communicate. You want to be as clear as possible in communicating your ideas, and subject-verb agreement is one of those grammatical errors people make that can quickly make you sound dumb. That is not your goal as a writer unless you're writing fiction and you want your characters to sound uneducated. Subject-verb agreement might be one of the most misunderstood issues in English grammar, in large part because of its definition. Subject-verb agreement means that the subject and verb of the sentence must agree in person and number. But what does that mean? In person simply means they will agree in relation to the personal pronouns that might be used as subjects in a sentence. In English, we have first-person pronouns, second-person pronouns, and third-person pronouns. To agree in number means that singular nouns take singular verbs, plural nouns take plural verbs. But that is also what can make this concept confusing. In the example, more than 1 million people practices traditional karate, the subject is people, meaning more than one. People is a plural subject. That means the verb must be plural as well, but that's not the case. The main verb here, practices, is singular. Don't get fooled by the S on the end. Verbs that have an S added to them are actually singular, not plural. The plural form of the verb in this case would be practice, not practices. The sentence, more than 1 million people practices traditional karate is an error then, because it contains a plural subject, but a singular verb. So the rule states a verb must agree with its subject in person and number, meaning that if the subject is plural, the verb will not have an S at the end. If the subject is singular, the verb will have an S. Here's another example. The techniques of karate includes stance and blocking methods. The first step in fixing this error is to isolate the subject. What is it? It's not karate. The noun karate is actually the direct object in this sentence. The subject in this sentence is techniques, and the S at the end should tell you that the subject is plural. More than one technique is involved here. If the subject is plural then, the verb must be two, but the verb in this case, includes, is singular. The S tells us this, remember, because singular present tense verbs have an S at the end. Plural verbs do not. In its correct form then, the sentence should read, the techniques of karate include stance and blocking methods. This is the English language we're talking about here, so remember every rule has an exception. The exception here involves the third person forms of present tense verbs other than the to be verbs like am, are, and is. When you use a third person pronoun like he, she, or it, the verb does get an S at the end. So the first person form of the verb matter, for instance, would be I matter. The second person would be you matter, but the third person form would be he matters, or she matters, or it matters. The to be verbs are, am, and is are a special case that we'll talk about later in this lesson. To confuse things even more, we have a host of what are called indefinite pronouns in English that are used as subjects as well. Some are always plural, some are always singular, and some can be either singular or plural depending on how they're used. In this example, everyone in my house loves camping. The subject of the sentence is everyone. It is called an indefinite pronoun because it doesn't name a specific or particular person, but everyone is always singular. That means the verb love gets an S added to it to make it singular as well. Remember that singular verbs do not end in S, but singular verbs do. Everyone in my family loves to go camping is the correct form of that verb love because of the S at the end. These four indefinite pronouns, both, few, many, and several, are obviously plural. That means then that a verb used in its present tense form will not have an S at the end, because we want the plural form of the verb. In this example, by the way, several is the subject, not the word friends. Friends is the object of the preposition of in the prepositional phrase of my friends. So the plural form of this verb then would be enroll. Several of my friends enroll in the canoe sailing class each year. For that group of pronouns that is either singular or plural, you can see the list there: all, some, more, none, any, and most. Context is going to be the deciding factor in determining whether or not the verb should be singular or plural. For example, in the sentence, some of the teenage crew are surprised to learn that canoe sailing is not a new sport, the pronoun some refers to more than one person on the crew. So the verb pair are surprised is correct. In that case, some has to be plural. In the second example using some, the pronoun references one particular part of the instruction. Some of the instruction occurs on land. In this case then, the verb occur must be singular as well, so the sentence correctly written reads, some of the instruction occurs on land. In order to be singular, remember, the verb has to be or has to have an S at the end. As for those troublesome to be verbs, is accompanies singular subjects, as in the mayor is going to jail. Are accompanies plural subjects, as in the mayor's brothers are going to jail. For the verbs has and have is used with singular subjects, as in everyone has done his or her homework. Everyone is the subject here, remember, not the third person pronoun his or her. Have is the correct form for plural subjects, as in we have done our homework. Now, there are a couple of things you need to remember about subject-verb agreement and recognizing an error when you see one. First of all, a writer's best friend is their ears. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably wrong. Of course, people don't always speak correctly, and the truth is, errors become accepted as correct usage when they're not. But if you're still in doubt about a particular subject-verb combination, try to isolate modifiers like prepositional and adjective phrases so that you can better see the relationship between the subject and verb. That house with the shutters have stood empty for 40 years is an error. But if we read the sentence without the prepositional phrase with the shutters, we can more easily see that the subject house is singular, requiring a singular verb. That verb form would be has, not have. In the second example, we have the same problem, but if we eliminate the phrase like the porch, what is left sounds wrong and is. The shutters is crying out for repair. To fix the problem, we need the plural form of the verb. The shutters, like the porch, are crying out for repair. And that is subject-verb agreement. It's complicated. It's not always easy, but hopefully you're better equipped to deal with it than you were 15 minutes ago. Good luck, and right on.